Hello, my name is Kyle Sinclair. I'll be continuing this video series. So we have our mesh. We've just do an overview here. We've done the diffuse, which is the color. We've done the normal map, which gives it the bump, and we've done the specular, which gives it the shine. And now we're going to go over the emissive and the opacity mask. So I've already imported my texture here, and I'm going to go over it in a bit. That's not the right one. Basically what I did is I took a selection of what I wanted. So in Photoshop here I have, in the red channel we have the grate, and the black area is the area that I want not visible on my mesh. And then I have my green channel here, which is the part that I want to glow on the mesh. And I have nothing in my blue channel here, but what I'm going to put in there later on is my reflective, the areas that I want reflected. And so the reason why I did this is because when I put it into the Unreal Engine here, I'm just going to drag this up so you guys can see. I'm going to plug this into my opacity mask, and so you plug the red into the opacity mask, and that's going to take all the red data and put it into the opacity mask. So what this is doing is, instead of importing multiple textures, multiple 512 by 512 textures, it's gonna save a lot of texture space, and in the long run it'll help out the game engine quite a bit, especially if you're producing a game or something, because you won't have 3 different textures, you'll just have your RGB, and that'll be enough. So we have the red plugged in. Now we're going to plug in the emissive, and what I did here is, I don't know if you've seen, but when I plugged in the red to the opacity mask, at the very bottom here you got to set the blend mode to blend_mask, and that's going to create the opacity in the grate that I wanted. As you can see the grid showing through. Okay, so now I'm going to add my emissive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold 3 and left click, and that's going to add a constant 3 vector. And what this does is basically you can basically set a color for it, and I'll get into why in a second here. I'm going to set down a multiply, so you hold M and left click, and that'll bring that up. And we're going to plug a green channel into here. We're going to plug our constant 3 vector into here, and then we're going to add hold 1 left click and hold M left click, and we're going to plug our constant 1 vector, which is the 1 0 there. We're going to plug our multiply in, and we're going to go into here, our constant 3 vector, set this to 1, and that'll turn it yellow. And then we're going to set this here to, let's say, 5, and then basically what this is doing is it's plugging in the green channel, which is my light, and it's plugging in this yellow color into my multiply, and it puts those two together. And so what it's doing is it's taking that circle and it's brightening it up as a yellow, and then we bring it into multiply again, and we took a 5 on this one, and it's brightening it by 5 times. Then we're going to plug our multiply into our emissive, and then we have our yellow light. Now it's not exactly as nice as I thought it would be, so we're going to crank this. Actually, we'll bring it up. I wanted it more white, but we're just going to have to deal with it like that. There's other ways to go about doing this. Obviously, you can have your own texture in there. You can, oh, there we go. Set to 0.4. 3. Just leave it at 0.1. So it's brightening up by 5 times. It is kind of a mess, so we're just gonna, if you hold Control and Alt, and then you can do a drag or do a box selection, and then hold Control and move these out of the way here. I'm just gonna move them up so it's not all messy and it's easy to view. What else do we got here? So we're gonna close this, save it, and we should have this, and you can see through the grid it's looking pretty good. I'm actually gonna try something here, so let's duplicate this and turn it around. So what I'm doing at the bottom here is I'm adjusting my grid snap. At the bottom here, every time I move it, it's going to snap 2 units. And then also here, every time I rotate it, it's going to move it by 6 degrees and scale it up by 5%. So now I have this. I should actually, no, I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to add a light, and then I'm going to scale this down. Not that much, obviously. This is way too fast here. 3 degrees. Alright, I'm going to go into my light properties, crank this down a bit, change my light color so it's relevant to the rest of the glow, and we're going to bring this up so it's actually doing something. Then we're going to Alt left click to drag it over, and now we're going to copy all these and see how it looks if we move it up like this. So it's Alt left click to drag, and as you can see, it doesn't look too good because I didn't set the, when I was doing my diffuse map, I didn't make sure that the sides here repeated, and that's one thing that you want to do. I know in Photoshop, if you want to do this, let's bring up my final. If you go into Filter, Other, Offset, first you gotta deselect everything. Filter, Other, Offset, and you set it to half of your texture. You can see right down the middle how it's gonna look, and you can also set this to 0, so it's 256, and you can do vertical and do up and down. I don't know if other 2D packages offer that, but that's how you do it in Photoshop. And so let's see here, so now that we got our emissive and our alpha, I'm just going to show you guys something here. So let's just save this out. First off, like I said on the last video, you always want to make sure that everything is updating properly in the game engine. If you import your normal map, your specular map, and it's not displaying properly, instead of re-importing everything, you can just right click and hit re-import texture, and it's a lot faster than deleting it, re-importing it. And also I'm going to go over my collision mesh here. Now, when doing your collision mesh, First off, you gotta hit show collision. It's right in this toolbar up here. Now when you're in your collision mesh, it's completely different. When you go into your 3D package, basically what you're doing is you're creating a box around your model, and that box will basically tell the player that they cannot pass through it. So I didn't create a collision mesh for this piece yet. Basically what you want to keep in mind when creating a collision mesh is you want to make sure the shapes are very simple, like boxes and spheres and whatnot. I pulled up the Unreal Engine website, or the Epic Games website, and right here it shows the different types of shapes. Don't go too advanced. Don't start pulling in edges and verts, and don't have any open faces and everything like that. And then once you have everything, your collision mesh, wrapped around your object, you'll want to rename it as a UCX_name, and I'll type that in here so you guys can see, unless it says here, which I don't think it does. Here we go. UCX primitives. So how you want to name it is UCX underscore then the name of your object. Make sure it's the same name as your mesh. So for example, my mesh name here is plate_01, so I want to have UCX_plate_01 as my collision. And when I import the entire scene into the Unreal Engine, it's going to automatically bring in that collision mesh, and it's going to pick up the name, and it's going to flag it, and it's going to tell it that it's a collision, and it stands for Unreal Convex Collision. So you can do your collision mesh that way. Another way to do it is in this toolbar right here. You have your 6 DOP, 10 DOP, all these collision objects right here. You can remove your collision. You can do an auto convex collision. I'm gonna try. Well, that didn't work. You can just play with the settings. I'm just gonna go auto convex. Change the depth to 1. Change this down. Hit apply, and it's gonna apply a really poor collision mesh on it, but it'll work. So I'm not too sure what I just did there. I'll just close it out and don't look at it anymore. So now we have our collision mesh on it. It even says at the bottom here where it says no collision mesh found, it now has nothing. So that's how you put your collision mesh on. So we're going to go into here, and I'm going to show you the purpose of it in a second. As for your light map, when doing your light map, you want to do a second UV channel essentially, and when you go into your properties here, I believe it's in here, and on the top left side you can it'll show UV channels, and it'll say 1. The purpose of doing 2 UV channels is to have your light map on the second UV channel. And what you want to be careful for on your light map is you want to have the objects that are going to appear close up to the player as big as possible on your UV map, and you want to add a lot of spacing between the different pieces of the UVs. And that is so if the light bleeds, it's not going to bleed over into the other object, and you're not going to have shading and lighting issues on that object. So you don't add any textures or anything for that. You just do a second UV channel, import it in, it'll show it in the Unreal Engine, and then when you hit build lighting, you're going to have these properties right here, and you hit OK, and it'll create your light map for you using that second UV channel when you place it. I might do a more detailed tutorial on that once further down the road. So I'm just going to save this out, and basically what this is doing is it's saving all my lighting information, and so when I jump into the Unreal Engine and I go and try and play this, it won't render every single light, and it won't need all these lights, and it'll save space. So what I'm going to show you guys right here is two things. First off, when you hit G, it'll take away all your helpers and your lights, and you can see the map for what it is. Another thing you can do is if you hold Alt or hit Alt and F8, you'll actually be able to play in your Unreal Engine in first person with the collision mesh. Now, if you didn't have your collision mesh, you will fall right through. So it's important that you have that, and that's why I saved it till now. As you can see, the alpha map is here, as well as I hoped it to. You can see the light glowing through it, so it looks pretty good. It looks kind of poor up close, but then again, what texture doesn't? So we're just gonna hit escape to get out of this, hit G to go back into our editor and see your lights, and there you have it. It's your emissive, opacity, your light maps, and how to test it in the Unreal Engine. And for the next tutorial, I'll be doing reflection, and we'll see what else I can cover in that one, so stay tuned.